service, which will witness the blessing of the banners. Perhaps some of you will join me in support the dedicated musicians and followers who come here to help us remember the commitment of all those people involved with the once traditional industry of coal mining, both here and throughout the world. Before I finish, I must congratulate and thank the organisers of today's event for all their hard work. Well done to them all. I bid you all a most warm welcome to Durham and hope that you enjoy your day on this, the 128th Durham Miners' Gala.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasant duty today to chair this particular meeting, the first time I've ever chaired the Miners' Gala. It's normally the prerogative and duty of my fellow comrade and official, David Guy, to chair this. He's chaired 26 galas in succession. Unfortunately, as many people know, David's fighting a very brave battle at this time against a very serious illness. He's in the RVI in Newcastle, receiving treatment, palliative care, and hopefully David will be pain-free from now on in for the rest of the time he spends with us. As I say, the first time he's ever missed it, and it'll be a very sad day for him. It's a sad day for me because he's not here, but as the old saying is, life carries on, and I'm sure David will be wishing us well today in our endeavours. The first in an appeal for the battle which is now raging in Madrid, where the miners and austerity cuts are hammering our comrades and friends in other European countries. The first speaker today, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome him, is an MP from West Bromwich called Tom Watson. Tom is a trade union MP, member of the Shadow Cabinet. His responsibility is for culture, media and sport. He's sat on the select committee for that. He's recently exposed the press baron Rupert Murdoch and his scumbag organisation News International. For many years our movement and our leaders and our representatives have been attacked by these people. We now found out what we always knew, that these people are not whiter than white. They're some of the most terrible creatures on the planet. And I thank forever Tom for exposing that. And I'm just hoping at the end of this inquiry we see some action taken against these people. So Tom, it's our pleasure to welcome you here. Thanks for your work and your effort and your energy in bringing these people, hopefully, to justice. Tom.
And they had dreams. And comrades, it's literally a dream come true today to be standing here with you on this platform. Some people choose this movement. They come to us through the workplace, or through books, or through campaigns, and great respect to them for that. The message of socialism, alleviating inequality, is a beautiful sound, and every new person that hears it, really hears it, that's a beautiful thing. Some of us, though, are born with this movement in our veins. My grandparents' were activists, organisers, soldiers in the great fight for justice, half of working class solidarity, welling up, washing over me. And is there anyone on this field who hasn't fought back a tear to recall great friends and family who are no longer with us today, but in whose footsteps you are proud to follow. This day stretches back longer through history than does the Labour Party itself. When our forefathers came to Durham to tell coal owners where to stick their bond, Queen Victoria was only halfway through her reign. The American Civil War had only just ended, and Karl Marx was in his prime. And ever since that day, in 1871, trade unionists have come here and held their heads up high and shown the world the meaning and power of solidarity. Of living spirals out of control for ordinary families. Make no mistake, they despise us. They always have. They don't live where we live. Their children don't go to our schools. They don't compete in the same market for jobs with our kids any more than they did for their education. It's all fixed up and effortless. The privilege never touches the sides. But the 22 millionaires in the cabinet just got richer. So where's their problem? Their kids aren't stuck on the dole. Their houses aren't being repossessed. Their elderly parents haven't gone back to switching off the heating. And that's why they can dismantle and privatise our NHS, as they are doing. They don't use it, not like us. They talk a good game, but they're lying to you. The NHS is for other people's children, other people's parents. That's why it doesn't matter to the Tories. And the lesson those Tories teach us on this great day: our movement is strongest when it marches behind the same banner. So I say to the leadership, to the RMT and the FBU and the Labour Party, time's passed, points have been made, the government has changed, but let's put that right. We need the movement and the party together to fight the real enemy, because our greatest weapon is what it's always been: solidarity. I've been in Parliament since 2001, but that's not why I'm invited on this platform today. There are hundreds of Labour MPs who would want this job. These days I'm also in the Shadow Cabinet, but that's not why I'm here either. It's nothing like sufficient qualification to get you at men outside the door. When they wrote lies in their papers so vicious, my parents were in tears. But actually, I wasn't alone. In the darkest nights, when I could hardly cope, this movement was where I came for strength. And when the threats and the lies and the intimidation seemed too much to bear, this movement was the one place I knew I could turn. A place which knows how casually power is abused, how crazy capitalism can go, how easily the state can conspire with huge corporations and corrupt police officers. And however bad things got these last few years, there were always people in this movement, whole institutions in this movement, that I knew I could always rely on, that I could turn to, that would always be on my side against the most powerful media empire in the world. And that, brothers and sisters, is what we really mean by solidarity. And I want to take this priceless opportunity to thank you for it. Thank you. And also for just the opportunity to be here. Of all the things I've done in my life, my grandmother would have been proud of being here today. It means an awful lot. So thank you.
How about that? What a start. Tom, your grandmother might have been proud here, but I'll tell you something else. The Durham miners are proud here. And when the battle gets rough, we'll still be shoulder to shoulder here in exposing the corruption of the system we're living in. So thank you very much for that tremendous contribution, Tom. That ranks about equal to most of the contributions I've heard in my 27 years as a Durham Miners official. I'm going to make an apology for myself now because I think with the platform we've got.
They're laughing because I'm standing on tiptoes, but you can't see over that. We're told that we're running over time and there's lots of speakers, so I'll try and be short, which will come naturally. You were right to clap Tom Watson. It was a great speech. I've just got one beef with Tom Watson's speech. He promised me that he wasn't going to be too good, and what can I tell you? The man's an absolute snake. But someone was quite clever, I have to say, in putting me on just after Tom Watson, because you don't know this, but you're very brave people to stand here for a few minutes and listen to me, because you are looking at someone who the Sun newspaper once called the most dangerous woman in Britain. I just think that Britain must be a very safe place, or that some people scare very easily, or I don't know. But seriously, it is a huge honour. You're going to hear this from speakers again and again today. It is a huge honour to be here today on behalf of Liberty, the National Council for Civil Liberties, to look at all of you standing there. It's not quite raining yet. To look at all of you standing there and to see almost the faces of people who stood there before you generations into the past is an enormous honour that I can only really compare with motherhood and perhaps my work at Liberty itself. It's also a particular pleasure, I have to say, to be here this week, in this year, at such a historic moment for the Gala and for the trade union movement. Now, I may be one of very few women who are going to speak to you this afternoon, but don't worry, ladies, I have been faithfully promised that next year there are going to be even more of us. And actually I just made that up and dropped the minute, but it's quite good fun, isn't it? But it's a particular, forgive me saying this, but it particularly touched me this week to be coming, knowing that we finally have the first woman in Frances O'Grady, General Secretary of the TUC. Yeah. Now, I know Frances. I have the pleasure of knowing Frances, and she's someone who was very kind to me and expressed that great Tom Watson word, solidarity, to me personally, some years ago, to assemble in Hyde Park in central London. And do you know what happened to them? Do you know? They got duffed up by the Metropolitan Police. That would never happen today, would it? So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, some things change and some things stay the same, and so we try to remember our history and our values even while adapting to new challenges and making new friends in the struggles that lie ahead. It is no surprise to me that Liberty has always enjoyed the solidarity and support of the trade union movement. Surely, rights to free speech and protest, association and assembly, rights against forced labour, freedom of conscience, personal privacy, and above all, equal treatment, equality under the law are essential not just to individual human dignity, but to the very solidarity of which Tom spoke, and to the needs of organised labour. Now, I want to be completely jolly because this is a very happy and celebratory day, but I must be honest with you that all of these basic democratic values have been consistently under attack in recent years, and all of them must be defended if the vulnerable are to be allowed to come together and stand against the powerful who abuse their power if they can. If you don't believe me, look at those TV pictures of the Spanish miners with the rubber bullets raining down on them. We have to show this solidarity of which Tom spoke, not just with every individual human being here in Britain, but of people in their freedom struggles all over Europe and all over the wider world. Internationalism is not just for banks and businessmen and governments and global empires. Internationalism has got to be about ordinary people and their values and aspirations as well. But I'm not afraid. I've learned in the last so many years, and I'm learning it standing here.
A law lecture. The Durham miners wouldn't enjoy that. That posed a problem. I can't speak about anything else, but I've solved it. The next Prime Minister is sitting here. I'll direct my law lecture to him. The rest of you can talk amongst yourselves. Ed, sharpen your pencil. I want to speak about trade union rights. We haven't many, so it won't take long. In fact, I want to talk about the right to strike. We have no right to strike, so the lecture will be shorter still. Let's be clear. I'm not talking about individual workers' employment rights. I'm talking about the rights of trade unions and trade unionists. Individual workers' rights can be given, and without strong trade union rights, they can be taken away. Take the right to unfair dismissal. The Tories gave us that in 1971. It was and is a very weak right. The median award for compensation for unfair dismissal is a miserable £4,500. And research shows that 1 year after an award of unfair dismissal compensation, 31% of workers had not in fact received it. As for reinstatement and re-engagement orders, that was ordered in, you won't guess it, 8 cases last year. 8 cases out of 49,600 cases dealt with by employment tribunals. 8 re-engagement orders. And unlike injunctions against trade unions for taking strike action, employers can ignore reinstatement orders, though they have to pay a bit more compensation. But all this is too much of a burden for the employers. The Condems have already raised the qualifying period for unfair dismissal from 1 year to 2 years. The consequence, 3 million workers in Britain employed between 1 and 2 years. Murdoch, as to whether this was part of the price demanded for Murdoch newspapers to support Labour in 1997. He denied it. I'm reminded of the words of Mandy Rice Davis in a case long ago. He would say that, wouldn't he? Can I remind you what it is that makes British trade union law the most restrictive in the Western world? Take the right to strike. As I say, there is none. Workers who take industrial action are in fundamental breach of their contracts of employment. They can be disciplined, sued, have pay deducted, be subjected to detriment short of dismissal, and be sacked. Their only protection is a claim for unfair dismissal if sacked within 12 weeks of the start of lawful official industrial action. But we've already seen how valuable that is. Trade unions can only call action in furtherance of a trade dispute. That is narrowly defined. It prevents strikes against government policies. So unions can't take industrial action against the cuts and austerity measures by which the Condems are destroying British civilization. A trade dispute can only exist between workers and their direct employer. So every form of solidarity action is outlawed in the UK. This is the most invidious restriction of all. The strong cannot support the weak. Where part of a business or service has been contracted out, the workers in each part can't take action to support each other so as to maintain terms and conditions. As if that were not enough, unions must ballot their members. No harm in that. But if they get the ballot wrong, it's not just the members who can complain, it's employers who are entitled to go for an injunction to stop the strike amongst those who have voted for it. Why should an employer have any right in relation to the internal democratic workings of a trade union? Came to power, only 30% are covered today. That means 7 out of 10 workers have their terms and conditions settled by management diktat. And Britain has by far the lowest level of collective bargaining in Europe, where the normal range is 80 to 90%. Why is this important? Let me just take my last few minutes to explain. Let's leave aside arguments about addressing the imbalance of power between the worker and the employer. Let's leave aside the case for democracy at work, workers having a say in what goes on in their working lives. Now that everyone has rejected the neoliberal economic consensus, let's make a sensible economic case for collective bargaining and the necessary trade union rights which underpin it. Collective bargaining increases wages, increases demand in the economy, increases tax revenue, reduces welfare budgets and promotes job growth. It forces employers to compete in technological advance, investment and efficiency rather than in reducing terms and conditions. That's why the strong and efficient economies of Germany, Sweden, Norway and Denmark have extensive collective bargaining underpinned by strong trade union rights. But we can make another case. Historical statistics show that the steep decline in collective bargaining coverage because of the emasculation of trade union rights is mirrored by growth in inequality and in poverty, with all the evils that follow: crime, drug abuse, antisocial behaviour, mental illness and hopelessness, and indeed in matters of life and death as well. The perinatal mortality rate, that's the rate of deaths of young babies, is increasing between the poor and the rich in Britain today.
What a warm-up. Can I just start by asking, can everybody hear okay? Sorry? Yes. Can we just start by sending a big, loud Gala cheer to Dave Guy, so you can hear it in Newcastle? Come on, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Great. You see, the thing about Dave, the thing about people like us, you see, we're trade unionists, and we're proud about that. We don't go to parties and tell people that we are human relations experts. We're trade unionists and we're proud of that. And this is a great day, it's a fantastic day. I love being in Durham. Fantastic, wonderful day. But you know, there were a couple of things missing today. Did you notice them? There were a couple of banners missing. I was particularly looking out for the Barclays Bankers Against Tax Cuts and Bonuses banner. Would have been a hell of a crowd behind that one, I'll tell you that much. Tax cuts. £100 billion. £100 billion. Evaded, avoided, or just bloody plain stolen. Whichever way around you look at it. £100 billion. So when people talk to me, politicians or anybody else, that the critical nature of the economy and the future of this country hangs on cutting winter fuel payments for pensioners, I sort of give them a long, hard stare in the face. And so I think that the campaign to root out those people who have made a damn good living out of this country, who have been happy and prepared to have a second home, a new car, some shares abroad, paid for by our care services or our NHS or a children's home not getting what they needed, I'd say more power to your elbow. And I hope, Ed, that the party will now look down and bear down on those people who have not been paying their fair share, and that we crack down on those tax evaders. I am of vested interest because I believe in social justice. I don't believe in companies, even now, who have blacklisted thousands of trade unionists like Carillion, who are still competing and getting tens of millions of public money after victimising trade unionists. I'd say I wouldn't give them a contract anywhere in the country. Recognise people's rights to belong to a union, or you ain't good enough to take our money. We're a vested interest. We believe in equality. We believe in equality. You see, that's the bit they don't get. We believe that people should share the wealth they create. Not for ourselves, but for all. That's the bit they just don't get. The Tories don't get it. Bankers don't get it. Because their focus is on themselves and on greed. And that's the bit they just don't get. Thank you for the fantastic honour of speaking at the Gala. I just want to say one thing. One final thing. We're here today because people didn't give up. We stand on the shoulders of those who've gone before us. We are here today because people stood up and fought. And we've got a political, industrial and organisational fight to make. And I'm saying I'm up for it.
At the Gala, and can I say it's a particular honour for me as PCS General Secretary to address such a fabulous labour movement event. It's an honour to be here, but I also want to say it's an honour because of the people I represent. PCS members are some of the lowest paid, hardest working public sector workers in Britain. They're always the first to be attacked by politicians. We are fed up of being told we're bureaucrats, we don't do anything and we're inefficient. But let me tell you here, the people who collect the taxes, who pay the benefits, who keep the courts working, the transport system working, who give you your passports, and so much more. They are low-paid, hard-working PCS members, and I'm proud to represent them. Can I also say that I'm proud to be on a platform where we've heard such brilliant speakers. And I particularly want to pay tribute, not just to John Hendy, who I'm happy to report our union hasn't lost a single legal case that John has represented us on, but also with Tom Watson being here. Because I think we should always pay tribute to Tom and the brilliant work he did to expose the filth of the Murdoch empire and the criminality that was going on. And you know what? It made me remember something when I lived in the South Wales valleys during the great miners' strike of 1984-85. It was Murdoch's biggest rag, the Sun, that said miners and their families were the scum of the earth. Well, I tell you who's the scum of the earth. It's Rebecca Wade, Andy Coulson, Rupert Murdoch, and the people who've attacked us for years. And I tell you something, I've got a suggestion to make. I can see on the horizon Durham prison. Well, we shouldn't rest until Coulson and Rebecca Wade are serving time in Durham prison for the crimes they've committed over the years. And when they go to jail, let us remember the victimised miners and their families and the people who suffered for doing nothing more than fighting to defend their communities and defend their lifestyle. Now, comrades, we've had some great speakers and I'm sure we're going to have a great day. But I want to do something that maybe makes me a bit of a miserable sod, but I'll do it anyway, which is I want to invite people to be angry. To be angry about what the cabinet of millionaires is doing to us, the length and breadth of the country, and to commit ourselves not just to be angry, but to fight back and do something about it. Now, why should we be angry? We have 1 million young people unemployed. We have young people forced on workfare schemes, exploited by employers that see some of them sleeping out rough under London Merthyr and started attacking people for being work shy. He said the people of Merthyr had to understand there's more to life than getting up from the bedroom and walking to the living room. Ian Duncan Smith said they should get on the bus and look for work. Well, let me tell you something about Merthyr. 1,500 people are unemployed, and in the job centre today, there are 39 vacancies. Comrades, the answer here is not to attack those who have nothing and have no jobs. It's to recognise until jobs are available, we should provide a decent welfare state for those who need it and not attack them. And I want to make one final point about this government of millionaires. Their obsession with privatisation. They tell us the private sector does it better every time than the lazy, inefficient public sector. Well, excuse me, how long have we known the Olympics has been coming? 7 years. And G4S, the private company, now reveal they've only got 4,000 people trained when they've been given money to provide 10,000. Imagine what would happen if that was a public sector organisation that failed. They'd be denounced from Parliament by the Tories and told that they were useless and rubbish. But when it's the private sector, what do we see? They take the money, and now we have soldiers coming back from Afghanistan who will provide security, some of them with redundancy notices in their back pocket because of Tory cuts. It absolutely stinks. It's a government of the rich, for the rich, by the rich, and we have got to do something to say we're not going to accept it. So comrades, I want to finish on this point. What do we do when we're being attacked? What do we do when our people are suffering in a way that many of us never thought we'd see? We have to fight. We have to fight like lions in every community and recognise that if we lose now, our children...
La minería española lleva 48 días de huelga indefinida por el incumplimiento del gobierno de Mariano Rajoy de un acuerdo pactado entre el Ministerio de Industria, la patronal del carbón y los sindicatos mineros.
The Spanish miners have been on strike for 50 days due to the government failing to comply with the pact made between the Ministry for the Industry, the Coal and the Miners Union.
Un incumplimiento que puede llevar a las empresas mineras a un cierre inmediato, dejando sin empleo. La Unión Europea había fijado, en contra de nuestra voluntad y de nuestros planteamientos, a causa de la falta de voluntad política del gobierno anterior, en diciembre de 2010, a través de la decisión europea 787, una disminución gradual de las ayudas al sector, para que a partir de 31 de diciembre del 2018 las empresas mineras no puedan recibir más compensaciones a la producción. Una decisión europea que los sindicatos rechazamos y que estamos trabajando para incidir en Europa con el fin de que se modifique hasta que consigamos generar en las comarcas mineras un tejido industrial que palie la pérdida de empleos en la minería del carbón y orientar la actividad económica hacia otros sectores industriales.
The European Union has decided to gradually decrease all monetary help to the coal sector and make it so the miners don't receive compensations. A decision we, the unions, reject, and we are working to modify it until we can generate in the mining communities an industry, an economy that reduces the losing of jobs.
Con el recorte.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, friends, let me start by saying that it is a privilege to be here with you today. I come here to honour the tradition of the Durham Miners' Gala. I come here to honour the traditions of the North East. And I come here to honour this great Labour tradition. I also come here humbled by the history of this great gala and the names of the people who have spoken to this gathering echo down the ages. Keir Hardie, George Lansbury, Manny Shinwell, Clement Attlee, Aneurin Bevan, Jim Callaghan, Harold Wilson, Barbara Castle, and so many great leaders of our movement. Friends, I am proud to follow in their footsteps. I am proud to be with you here today. To our young people, what this government is doing to young people the length and breadth of Britain. I grew up in the 1980s. I remember the 1980s. I remember the lost generation of young people in the 1980s. We said then we would never go back to those days, but that is what is happening under this government. So friends, let us take a vow today to our young people. We will never leave you without hope. We will never leave you without work. We will never leave you without a future. Looking out for each other, never walking by on the other side. Friends, these are the values of the people of Durham. These are the values of the people of the North East. But let me tell you something else. These are the values of the people of Britain as well. The values of the people of Britain, south, north, east and west. They're not Tory values. They're our values. Values of compassion, values of care, values of community, values of looking after each other. Now these Tories, they want to blame everyone else for what is happening in our country. What the mission of the next Labour government will be. Wherever there is power unchallenged, we should challenge it. Wherever there is injustice, we should tackle it. Wherever there is unfairness, we should fight it. And to anyone who says, and there are some of them here today, who says it can't be done, let us remember our history. 100 years ago, they said there could never be a Labour government. We fought the Tories and we won. Then they said there could never be a National Health Service. Aneurin Bevan fought the Tories and we won. Then they said education would only be for the elite. And we fought for the principle of education for all and we won. Then they said there could never be a minimum wage and people would be paid 50p an hour. We fought for the minimum wage. We fought the Tories and we won. Labour is coming together. We are inspired by our traditions. We take courage from the battles we have won, and we understand our task for the future. To rebuild our country on the values of the people of Durham, on the values of the people of the North East, on the values of the people of Britain. Responsibility, community, fairness, equality and justice. That is my mission. That is our task. Is the battle we can win together. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck. Can you just... You've got something.